Monday. Well, it's not a Blue Monday for two teams. We are talking about the NFL today. That's right, the NFL. It's the Monday morning review of the NFL today, and we had the championship games in the AFC and the NFC yesterday. And of course, there were four teams, and two winners emerged. Right. So let's start off. It's Monday, January 30th, 2023 year of our Lord Jesus Christ. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Hey there, hi there, ho there. What's kicking chicken? The NFL conference title games have been played and two winners. Two winners have emerged. From the NFC, we have the Philadelphia Eagles. And from the AFC, the Kansas City Chiefs. It's interesting to note that these two teams were stalwarts. Yeah, they're stalwarts in the conferences or leagues before the merger in 1970. The Kansas City franchise began as the Dallas Texans for the AFL, American Football League. Back in 1960, it was owned by the Texan millionaire Lamar Hunt, and he started this team as kind of like the bedrock of the AFL. The NFL were kind of upset at this, and in an effort to thwart Hunt and the upstart AFL's success, they awarded a Dallas franchise to Clint Merchantton and Bedford Wynn, and also in 1960, and that would become the Dallas Cowboys. Hunt, competing with the Cowboys in the NFL, searched for greener pastures and moved the team to Kansas City in 1963. So began the Kansas City Chiefs. When he moved the team, he renamed them the Chiefs. He found greener pastures because Kansas City would sell out as soon as they got there and have remained a football town ever since. Now, the Philadelphia Eagles, they were founded by Bert Bell. Bert Bell, that's right, who would later become the commissioner of the NFL in 1946. Now, with this requirement of the Eagles, the NFL went from small secondary cities to start populating themselves in major cities. Philadelphia. Philadelphia begins in 1933, and at that same time, they changed the whole format thanks to Bert Bell. They went from secondary cities like Dayton, Ohio, Racine, Wisconsin, and Rockford, Illinois is the base, and went towards Chicago, New York, Philadelphia, and DC. Okay, now we got that little bit of history out the way. On to the games. The Philadelphia versus San Francisco contest could have been declared a no contest when third string quarterback, who was actually the starting quarterback for the past 6 weeks, Brock Purdy, was knocked out of the game in the first quarter with an arm injury. Yeah, he was tackled. He was trying to make a throw, and he got whacked with his arm back here. And we've all seen this happen and wondered why what happened to Purdy doesn't happen more, which is the guy goes out injured because his arm is like pulled back, and it's going to be a tear there or a strain there, and that's what happened to Purdy. So Purdy was knocked out the game, and Purdy, who was the third string quarterback, who became the starting quarterback, was now knocked out the game and replaced by the fourth string quarterback, Josh Johnson. Josh Johnson. You've heard of that name. No, you haven't. No, nobody's heard of Josh Johnson. And that's surprising. Not really. It's surprising in the fact that Josh Johnson has been in the league 15 years. 15 years. He has played on 14 teams. And no, you have not heard of him, just like I have not heard of him. But he came in. He came in and he proceeded to try to right the ship. He even managed to score a touchdown in the second quarter. Yeah, scored 7 points. He led the team down the field for 7 points in the second quarter. The only touchdown of the game. I forgot to tell you. They lost 31-7. San Francisco did, yes. Get the score out the way. The score was 31-7 in favor of the Philadelphia Eagles. And that 7 points came from Josh Johnson, Well, Josh Johnson was chugging along. He got the 7 points, and it looked like San Francisco might have a chance until he was knocked out in the third quarter. That's right. He got a concussion. And when he got that concussion, he was taken out the game. So guess what happened? They had to reinsert Brock Purdy. And Brock Purdy was still suffering from this arm injury. They say it's a torn UCL. We've had MCLs, UCLs, ACLs, MCLs. Jeez. Anyway, this is a UCL, sort of like the Tommy John thing. And they reinserted Brock Purdy back into the game, but he couldn't throw with any force or accuracy. And why am I belaboring the point? I think you guys get the idea. Philadelphia was dead in the water from the first quarter when Brock Purdy got knocked out the game and Josh Johnson had to come in. Unfortunately for Philadelphia, unfortunately for San Francisco, because this was a well-anticipated matchup between these two teams. Probably, or arguably the two best teams in the NFL. That's right. San Francisco had a pretty darn good team. And as we found out, Philadelphia has a darn good team. Little coffee thing. I stayed up late watching the Kansas City game, so I need my coffee. Now, the Niners offense, but thanks to Philadelphia's defense that set a franchise record for sacks, and as they knocked out Purdy and Johnson, like I said, we're dead in the water. But on the other side of the ball, the Eagles offense was flying high. Jalen Hurts still looks a bit slow and tender. Let me just put it that way when it comes to throwing the ball. Okay, he only attempted 21 passes and completed just 15 of them, but he got the job done. But the total load of the offense shifted during the game. They didn't try to load Jalen Hurts with a lot of the throwing because they found out that they could run on the San Francisco defense. And so run they did. They ran for a total of 148 yards. Now, that pretty much sealed the game. They were able to run the ball. The San Francisco's offense couldn't move the ball. So with the game being 28-7 in the fourth quarter, they pulled Jalen Hurts. As well they should. Smart move. That was essentially the game. There's not much really to report here. Like I said, the contest could be labeled a no contest because it was basically a no contest from the first quarter on when Brock Purdy, their starting quarterback, went out and Josh Johnson had to come in and try to do something against a Philadelphia defense that led the league in sacks and can bring the pressure. These are some hard hitters. Like I said, they are rough and tumble, ready to rock and roll at the drop of not even a dime, a penny. You drop a penny, they'll be down there fighting for it. These guys, they're the best defense in the NFL right now. I know that the 49ers were ranked as the best defense, but I've said this for the past 2 weeks that the Eagles have the best defense in the NFL. They hit and they hit hard. Now, the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Cincinnati Bengals game was won by Kansas City 23-20. That's right. Two high-powered offenses like Kansas City and Cincinnati just barely managed to get into the 20s. And what does that tell you? Well, we'll get into that. But Pat Mahomes, bad ankle and all, showed up and showed out. He passed for 326 yards and 2 touchdowns. Say what you want about Mahomes. And a lot of people don't like him. I can't figure this out, but those are just personal preferences. If he was on your team, you would love him. He's magical. Not only is he magical, he's smart, he's innovative. And as we saw yesterday, he is downright tough. This kid gutted it out. Let's go on, okay? The Chiefs needed every bit of him to win this game because Joe Burrows and the Bengals kept coming back. Burrows passed for 270 yards and 1 touchdown. But thanks to the KC defense, which had 2 interceptions, this or that or whatever you call it, was really the game. Okay, the Kansas City defense. Because they've been spotty all year. Say what you want. We all knew that Kansas City had a great offense. I think they had the number 1 ranked offense in the NFL this year. And they led the NFL in points scored this year. But their defense has been spotty at best. Okay? Sometimes they look good. Sometimes they look not so good. Which is a kind way of saying sometimes they just look awful and terrible. And it doesn't look like they're not steady or coordinated. They're coordinated, but they're not steady. They're not consistent. They miss assignments, blow assignments. But this game here, for you Kansas City fans, your defense showed out. Your defense really showed out. They stepped up. They did the job. They were able to contain the Bengals offense for the most part all of the game. And they made the Bengals work. Something that Kansas City is not noted for. Making the other team work on offense. Keeping everything in front of them. Making sure tackles. Making sure they cover the deep pass. Well, Cincinnati is known for the screens. They're great screens. Joe Burrow sets up screens right, left, and they go down the field. Those little passes, short passes to the back coming out the backfield. Kansas City covered it. They contained it. They nailed it. They made Cincinnati work, and Cincinnati had a hard time getting anything going for the whole game. So they sacked Joe Burrows 5 times, okay? Intercepted him twice. Had 5 quarterback hits also. And they held the Bengals running game to 78 yards. So let's put all this in perspective. We're looking at a hobbled Mahomes, Patrick Mahomes. I call him Magic Mahomes. Coming out there, and the offense not being at full strength because of that, okay? And let's factor in Cincinnati's defense. Cincinnati has a good to great defense. So they were going to make it hard on Patrick Mahomes anyway. As a matter of fact, they had beat the Chiefs the last 3 times they had played. The Chiefs were underdogs, and they should have been underdogs considering that Cincinnati has had their number the last 3 times and have looked like the better team, a more complete team on offense and defense. So the Kansas City defense, when we put all this in perspective, really had to come up big. And they rank in the bottom half. They're number 16. There's 32 teams, and they're like 16 or 17 as far as defensive statistics go where they're ranked. They're ranked in the bottom half of the NFL's defenses. But one would have to say that they overachieved, to say the least, because they balanced the game out. We knew that Mahomes is not going to be the same. And that with the Cincinnati defense was really going to shut down Kansas City. But could Kansas City's defense step up? And they did. So let's get to the game. Like I said, okay. Kansas City started first. They scored a field goal. And then they scored another field goal. Before Cincinnati was able to get on the board. So now it's 6-3. But then Kansas City scored the touchdown. And the Bengals managed another field goal before the halftime. So now we're at 13-6. Coming out of the halftime into the third quarter, Kansas City had the ball. And they punted. They couldn't get anything going. I think Mahomes' leg was starting to feel worse. His ankle was starting to feel worse. He was really hobbling and limping around by now in the third quarter. So the Bengals got the ball. And on the first possession, they went down the field and tied the game up at 13-13. But on the Chiefs' next possession, they went down the field and scored another touchdown and made it 20-13. The game's getting kind of interesting, right? Not so much. After that, it went back and forth. They exchanged punts, and let's see, 2 possessions later, after exchanging punts, the Bengals scored. That made it 20-20. So that was in the beginning of the fourth quarter. And again, nobody can get any traction. The defenses stood up and stood out. So after punting the ball back a couple of times, they gave the ball to, let's see, Kansas City. Yeah, Kansas City had the ball. And it was getting close to the 2-minute warning. Inexplicably to me, when they were stopped, they punted the ball back to Cincinnati. But Cincinnati couldn't get anything done. Joe Burrow was sacked. So they punted the ball again. And I didn't expect anything. It was only 30 seconds left. We'll get into that. But 2 plays later, Mahomes was trying to run the ball on his bad leg, his bad hip, his bad ankle, and everything else he had bad after getting hit a couple of times by the Cincinnati Bengals. But he was knocked out of bounds. They were at the 42-yard line. There's no way to make a field goal. It's only 3 seconds left. But a penalty occurred. That's right. There's a roughing, not a roughing the passer. There was an unnecessary roughness penalty. He hit Joseph Ossai hit Patrick Mahomes as he was out of bounds. Terrible, terrible, terrible play. And it resulted in the ball being moved out to the 25-yard line. And Butker kicked the field goal for the win. Now, I thought this game was over. Really, I did. Let me tell you the truth. When Kansas City punted the ball, okay, with 2 minutes to go, okay, they had the ball on the Bengals' 37-yard line. 4th down, 8 yards to go, okay? It was like 2:05, maybe 2:13. But if you punt the ball to the Bengals, essentially the game's over. In my mind, because we've all seen this happen. You punt the ball back to the team with 2 minutes to go. They go down the field and they kick a field goal and they win the game. There's no time left on the clock. I thought Andy Reid made the blunder of the century by not going for it. Okay? 37-yard line, 8 yards to go. 8 yards to go. They have to go for it. The season is on the line. If they make this 8 yards, the game is theirs. Essentially this. They can run down the clock. Take their time. Okay, after the 2-minute warning, run a couple of plays and get ahead of this game. No drama. Finish off. The drama is right here. But no, they punted. I thought it was absolutely worst call that I could imagine happening. They gave the ball back. They can't. I thought to myself, they can't give the ball back to him. Taylor made situation to lose, but the Chiefs punted and still managed to win the game. It's unbelievable, but it happened, and that's what football is all about. The impossible happened because I picked the Bengals to win, and not that I cared one way or the other, passionately. Okay, I like both teams. Both teams play the game right. They're not dirty teams. They're not whiny teams. They play hard. But I thought, especially with Mahomes hurt, Cincinnati would have this one in spades. But it just shows you how gritty, how gutsy, and how tough Patrick Mahomes is. And I think all of you Kansas City fans have to appreciate what you have right now. Arguably the best quarterback in the league. Okay, Jalen Hurts is the Michael Jordan. He's got all the talent in the world. When this guy's healthy, I'm going to tell you, Kansas City fans, you got to watch this kid. You got to watch this kid. When he's healthy, everything looks easy. Everything looks easy. Now, Patrick Mahomes is probably the most complete quarterback, intelligence, innovative-wise. But that Jalen Hurts character, even you guys would appreciate him if you watch him when he's healthy. But Patrick Mahomes showed grit and determination. He was hobbled. He limped the whole game. And it didn't stop him from taking off. The play that makes it is that he takes off. Okay. I think they got the ball back with 30 seconds to go. And, the rush is, the Cincinnati defense is coming at him. He's back to pass. They're coming at him. And he gets out of it and takes off, starts running down the field. Now, this is a guy who's flipping. And it doesn't matter. He's going to make it happen. And so he's scrambling to get out of bounds and stop the clock when he's hit. And he gets that penalty. Penalty takes it down. And that's the game. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you have to give it up to both teams. I don't care who you're a fan of, Tampa Bay, San Francisco, God forbid the New England Patriots and that Dick and that guy Bill Belichick, whatever you want. I'm not even going to finish that sentence, okay? But these two teams have really showed a lot. The coaches that were in it have showed a lot. Nick Sirianni going to the Super Bowl in his second year. Zach Taylor, who was the Cincinnati coach. Such a steady individual who has managed to make Cincinnati a contender in his 3 years. I think he's only been there 2 years. He's only been there 2 years. Okay. Kyle Shanahan managing to get his team into the conference championship with all of his quarterbacks getting injured. Trey Lance to Jimmy Garoppolo, and now Brock Purdy, and then Josh Johnson. Usually when your starting quarterback goes out, you're done. You're done. But Shanahan managed to get his team all the way to the end. So hats off to them. They did a heck of a job. They were very good games yesterday. Sorry for San Francisco coming down with the injuries that they did and not being able to perform the way they wanted to. I think they would have made it a much closer game. I still think the Eagles would have won. So I'm actually one of two. I picked the Eagles in Cincinnati, and, well, Kansas City Chiefs won. Because they have a great quarterback who's gutsy and gritty, and you can't take nothing away from him. So my hat's off to both of them. Now, the Super Bowl is next, ladies and gentlemen, which have the Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs. Oh, it's really the Kansas City Chiefs and Philadelphia Eagles alphabetically. And you have two great quarterbacks, Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts. And tune in Friday for my prediction on what could happen, what should happen, and what possibly would happen come Super Bowl Sunday. And we have 2 weeks to go through this. So I'm going to be talking about this a lot, but I'll try to make it interesting. I'll keep it on history. I'll keep it on past performances, such as Hank Stram of the Kansas City Chiefs and Tex Stram he's a Dallas Cowboy, but the name sounds the same. What I'm saying is that I'm going to keep it interesting. All right, so tune in. I guarantee you'll have some fun and you'll learn something. And remember, you are the most important person in sports. You, okay? Your team. You don't own that team, okay? So don't worry about it. Follow the team, have a good time, but you ain't part of that team and you don't own it. It's your team in your mind, okay? You are the most important person. Your team, your family is the most important team. And with that, I will say, as I usually do, adios, arrivederci, au revoir, vaya con Dios, and goodbye, everybody. Have a good, safe day. And take care of all the people you know. Love them. Take care of them. And where was I? I'm somewhere in this. I'm over here. Okay. Yeah, take care. Have a good day. And goodbye, everybody.